Episode 5 of the BTB Project. Today's guest is from Itajai, Brazil. She started playing tennis at the age of 3, and by the age of 10, she was the #1 ranked junior in Brazil. At age 14, she traveled to the United States to compete in both the Orange Bowl and Herr national tournaments. And after high school, she left her beloved family to pursue her tennis dreams in the U.S. She received a full-ride scholarship to Tyler Junior College in Texas. And after JUCO All-American Honors, she received a scholarship to play D1 tennis at Northern Colorado. She has over 16 years of coaching high-level juniors and all over the country. She is an inspiration and a fighter on and off the court. Manu Santos, welcome to the BTB Project.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you, baby.
Welcome to the BTB Project, designed to empower listeners to identify their why and to live their best lives no matter the circumstances. My name is Coleman Gerhardt. A former athlete and motivational coach, I've had the opportunity to inspire thousands through my story and help accomplish what they are built to be. You'll be encouraged by each and every episode, and let's get into it.
Yeah, when I blow up, I'ma soar high like Peter Pan. In real life, be living out my dreams. If I'm waking up,
Manu, it's so awesome to have you. Unbelievably grateful for you to be joining the BTB Project. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Coleman. I appreciate you having me. I'm super honored and super excited to be here.
Excellent. So you and I have quite the track record, and there's a lot to cover in today's episode. And I kind of want to start by providing some context to the listeners of, one, how we know each other, but more importantly, as we discussed before we got, hopped on this, is I feel like I know you, but I feel like there's so much to learn about how you've gotten to where you are today. And, being an international player, international coach, and a friend of mine, I'm just excited to provide that perspective to our listeners as we walk through today's episode. So Manuela and I met originally at the University of Northern Colorado. Our playing careers crossed when I was already there, I believe a sophomore or a junior. I feel like I was in college for 15 years, which probably is a lot of folks' dreams these days. But I was just a late bloomer with my playing career, and nonetheless, I remember when you came and being a transfer from a JUCO and knowing that you were an international player, and just really the kind of push of, at that point, we were, part of a Division I program, and how much, weight that was just on the university we were representing, going from Division II to Division I, but also for us as players to, one, continue the success that you had from JUCO to D1 to, myself going from D2 to D1. I felt like amongst the men's and women's program that there was a lot of mutual respect going around, knowing what we were trying to tackle. But nonetheless, what I think would be fantastic to start with is to learn more about how you got to the United States. And I know how much you love your family, and being family focused myself, I have a tremendous amount of respect for that. So why don't you start off with telling us a little bit more about just your family and how you got into tennis in the first place?
Sure. So I'm one of 4 kids. I'm the youngest of 4, so you can imagine what it was for everybody for me to live here by myself, kind of like trying to figure things out on my own. I started playing tennis at a very early age of 3. I have 2 older brothers who were playing at the time. One was 5, the other one was 11, and I was 3. So my mom would take them to their own tennis lessons, and I was kind of just like, going with them.
Yeah.
And then one point, the coach put the racket in my hand, and that was the beginning of everything, And my mom had to start paying for my lessons because at the end of my brother's lessons, I would go 5-10 minutes here and there. You can really say that you're playing at 3, but that's when I was first exposed to tennis. My dad's side of the family all played, so kind of that's how like we all got into it. And yeah, so it's just watching my 2 brothers go to their practice, and and from 3 to today, I never stopped. And
so I'm curious, because I come from being a younger brother to an older brother. He was 4 years older than me. I shared it in my first or second podcast that, my brother was the athlete of the family growing up, and the only sport that I could beat him in was tennis.
Yeah.
And that's, almost verbatim how I started. Was I was 14 and going into high school, and he was a senior, and I beat him for the last spot on varsity to play varsity tennis, and he never played tennis again after that. So, knowing that you started at 3 years old, can you maybe speak to your brothers and, what the age difference is, and maybe what their involvement with tennis was back then and where they're at today with that?
For sure. Yeah, they both like played competitively all through until they were 18. One of my brothers actually had the opportunity to come to the United States too on a scholarship, but he decided to not go that route and go into medical school in Brazil instead. So like it's kind of hard because in Brazil we don't have high school sports, you don't have college sports. So that's why a lot of foreigners, and I think that's all across like the country except for you guys here, that offer that option. That's why you get a lot of people from, out of the country that allows us to come and play for another 4 years. So he decided to go and stay in Brazil. And my other brother, too, the same. He went into law school. But they all played, from all their junior career, played nationals, did really well as well. And right now they still play to this day, for fun. And with having their family and career, is just trying to find the balance, but they still love playing. They one of my brothers actually getting into some tournaments too, so it's kind of fun to see them still enjoying the game.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think having the older sibling, there can sometimes be tough love in those moments. Being the younger sibling, everything that I've learned from you as we've been teammates to a program that, represented, tennis at a very high level here in the United States. I always saw you as somebody that had a grit and determination that I didn't see it very often, to be honest. And I respect you so much for that drive and determination. And, knowing that we have some context now of how you got involved in tennis, I would love to hear more about your development. Obviously, you had a tremendous amount of success in Brazil, but maybe just kind of help us with the timeline of what led you to wanting to try to come to the United States.
Sure. So yeah, my 2 brothers are a huge part of my development as a player, as a person, because they're always around. Like one of my brother is only 2 years older than me, so we always practice together, like all the time. And my other brother was more like a mentor and almost a coach too, because he's 11 years older than me, and it was like countless number of times that he would take me to the tournaments himself. Gotcha. instead of going with, because I'll either go with a parent, would always be my mom, or my other brother would travel with me, or the oldest would take me to the like the furthest tournaments, like the national tournament. So we had a good relationship that way. I always looked up to him. he always on the tough love, like he he was probably gonna laugh, when he listens to this, because like he likes to take the pride of saying that he was the one that taught me how to volley, because he put me at the net and just like hit balls hard as hard as you could, and I would leave the court like crying most of the times,
Yeah.
But that just made me, tougher, and and I always practice with boys pretty much like my whole career, and grew up in the country club, and I played there up until like 14 years old, and then me and one of my brothers moved to a different town to get more training.
So did you have to move away from your parents at that point?
Yes. So him and I lived in an apartment by ourselves.
How old were you?
I was 14. He was 16.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So it was only an hour away, but still, we're on our own. Like I had to walk to my school. He had to walk to his school. And then I had to take the bus to go to practice.
Knowing what I know about you with how much your family means to you, I know that we're gonna dive into what it meant for you to go to another country, but in that moment, I'm just curious, with your mom and dad, I mean, how hard was it for you and your brother to do that?
It was, it was hard, but we had each other, like we had each other's back all the time, and he was more focused on studying, getting a better education, because he knew he wanted to go to medical school. And I was focused on my training, because tennis was always my priority. Tennis always came first. And school kind of always, like fell behind a little bit.
Right.
But I always passed, I always passed my classes, tennis was always, like living and breathing tennis. But we always knew that, my mom was an hour away and dad was an hour away, and we'd see each other on the weekend most of the time. But we knew we could count on each other always.
Yeah, that's awesome. Makes me reflect back to the relationship with my brother, and even though he kind of gave me that similar tough love, it propelled me to have success in a sport that I never thought I'd have success in.
Right.
And it makes me think about that time that you had to go away from your family. I graduated when I was 17, and to your point, yes, in the States we have, high school sports, and I wasn't recruited or had a look at all in being able to play college tennis. Most of that's based off of what you're doing in junior tournaments, your ranking,
Right.
the success that you've had. And so I made a decision when I graduated high school to take a gap year before I went to college. And I had a good friend of mine that originally was from Poland, and he played for a predominant high school here in Colorado, and came across him in a couple tournaments and some junior drills. And he said, hey, I spend my summers out at this academy in Arizona. You should check it out. And essentially that's kind of how I, started going after the game of tennis. I had a brother that pushed me, but he wasn't very good at it. Or my dad and my uncle played at a pretty high level growing up, but I didn't have, from what it sounds like, what you had with your brothers and, that platform. I think it's just really cool that you guys were able to do that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And it makes me think, when it comes to some of the risk you've taken because of the game of tennis, if you didn't have your brothers, would you have had the success that you had?
That's a good question. Probably not, or would it be maybe a little bit harder,
Right.
to kind of go through that alone, and not have that close to me. But yeah, they're a big part of to this day, like when every time I go back home to visit, we try to go out and hit, and just kind of reminisce on the times that, we did that together, But yeah, and then when I decided to take this route, and because I always was a pretty successful junior, and I had a really good career as a junior in Brazil, from the early ages, since I started playing tournaments at 9 years old, and later on to become number one in Brazil. But it was all with everybody's help, financially from my dad, the poor guy, he went broke, like, cause I was traveling everywhere you can imagine, like all over South America, all over Brazil, all over here. I came to the United States to play a couple of the international tournaments at 14 years old. But one of my brothers also came the same time. We kind of all came in a group, so that was really fun. But that was my first time in the United States at 14 to play, the Orange Bowl and the Eddie Herr, to a big international tournament. But yeah, with everybody's grind, not just me on the court, and in school too, because school is very hard for me. So it was like literally everybody's help. So I couldn't have done it alone, for sure.
You have the ability to, at any point, walk away from the path and direction that you took. And I always, and really the reason why I wanted to start this podcast was I wanted to have people share about times where they were driven and motivated, but there was a fair amount of uncertainty to that, to where you're always wondering, am I doing the right thing or I'm not? And yes, we're talking tennis, and that's how we've been connected, but there's a lot of people that navigate those same type of situations in their life. And, stemming back to my time, having my first international exposure, the academy setting, was, I started playing tennis when I was 14 years old, Manu. Like, yeah. I did not start when I was 3.
Yeah. Even more respect for you,
I think the best way I can put it is I was running towards something, but I had something chasing me at the same time. Meaning I had about as dysfunctional of a family that you could possibly imagine. Yeah. And I still had love and respect from certain elements of it, but why I share that and why I'm so appreciative of your journey is I feel like you had a backbone that allowed you to do things that you couldn't do on your own.
Correct.
And it makes me curious as we segue to you having the success in Brazil, getting some exposure to some junior tournaments, the largest junior national tournaments in the United States. And all of a sudden you find yourself at Tyler Community College. I would love to hear how in the world it went from, and listen, I'll talk about my schooling and not very motivated by that myself. But I would love to hear how that became on the radar and how you eventually got to the United States to play college tennis to start.
Yeah. So when I was 15, start training in this academy, pretty famous academy, fairly close to my hometown.
What's it called?
It's Lahi Passos Academy. So Lahi Passos was the former coach of Gustavo Kuerten, former number one in the world, former, French Open winner 3 times. So pretty big deal. Only a few players were even allowed to be in that academy because Google was still around, so it was only a few players that could be around him.
May I ask, when it comes to your ability to get into that academy, was it just because of your ranking, or was there a lot to your character, your work ethic? Like what allowed you to be selected for that?
Yeah, it was all, what you just mentioned. Definitely, like my rankings at the time and the grind that I always put into practice. But my coach in the academy, he still to this day talks about the first practice he had with me. He had never seen anyone with so much energy in his life. I mean, yeah. I mean, here I am in this like academy, that I was given a chance that I was not gonna blow it. I had to like put everything in me and more to show them that I deserve to be there.
Where'd that energy come from?
I have the heart, tennis is always my passion, and I always knew that.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't always easy, it was like a love and hate relationship.
Yeah.
Like there's days I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to be here, like I want to take a break. Got burned out a few times, because I was always like, go, 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 but then I would take like 1 day break and like, okay, I'm ready,
So if I told you, like, knowing you started at 3, like one thing that people always told me, and this actually came from someone you know very well, is Tiffany and Tabitha Knopp.
Yeah.
Their mom was a huge inspiration in my life, and Colorado natives as well. But they always said, and she always said, Coleman, you're not starting too late. Like there's so many players that have started before you that burn out, and those ones that burn out, like you're still going to have the fire. So I'm curious to know, like in that moment where, yes, you have heart and determination, but you've been grinding for a long time. There's been a sacrifice for a long time.
Yes.
Like when you're saying heart, you identified heart. Like how do you tap into that to keep going? Because I know so many people, especially in today's day and age, that would give up and throw in the towel. So what speaks to you wanting to keep going?
I just couldn't stay away, and that's exactly what motivated me to start coaching, because I like I said, like I would take a break, of like 1-2 days. And I was like, okay, I can't stay away. It was just too much work to give up. And not just from me, but from my family. Like everybody, like kind of always doing it as a team, not just one person. So that was always easy to keep going because I had their support.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing because one, I didn't know what the progression that you had, if it evolved in academy or not. How long were you in that academy setting?
So I was there for 3 years, from 15 to 18. And then when I was about 16, 16 and a half, the academy got an email from a coach at the University of Minnesota. Asking...
have you been to Minnesota?
No.
Manu, do you like the cold?
No. And, the follow-up questions like, why are you in Colorado? No, but so this coach contacted the academy because they knew I was training there. And kind of that's how it all began. And I had, like, at that time, like, I had no idea, like, what my career was going to, what was going to happen. At the moment, a lot of my friends at the time were kind of like thinking about doing the, like the college tennis here because it was like a fever, like I think my generation at that time, about 17, 18 years ago, that's when a lot of foreigners started like, coming here. It's very, very common.
What I guess my understanding is you either go on the tour
or you stop
and come and try to get a scholarship in the States.
Right. Or you stop altogether and go pursue your, education.
Which is what your brothers did.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
Right. So, so then I started contacting the coach from Minnesota. the assistant coach there was Brazilian, which made things way easier communication wise.
How was your English at that
terrible.
point? Okay.
Terrible. So when we decided that I was gonna do that, then everything kind of shift to focusing on learning the language versus playing tennis.
Right.
You know, because I already had that, right? Like everything was tennis wise, recruiting video was great, they loved it. So now it's like, okay, now you have to learn the language, which, you know, you kind of grow up learning a little bit in school, but it's nothing compared to coming here and having to survive in a different country, different language.
So let me ask you this, because you've been very pointed with not loving education, but knowing learning English would be part of your path to what you wanted to do with tennis. How did you approach learning English?
Well, you know, pretty much had to. The moment I decided I wanted to come here, it's like, okay, because I had to take a bunch of tests before getting even accepted in the school. So the reason I didn't go to the University of Minnesota is because my SAT score was not high enough. Academically, you know, it was a pretty high level school, education-wise, big school. So I was kind of glad that I went to a junior college first, in a smaller town, smaller environment, allow me to really like learn the language, because even when I got to Tyler, Texas, East Texas, now imagine that accent, and then here I am like trying to like, that's not the English that I learned, you know, like here, me thinking in my head, it's like, what are they saying? And I couldn't understand them half of the time, and I'm like, oh my God. And then, you know, those thoughts starts to creep in, and it's like, have I made a mistake? You know, like, what am I doing here? So my first semester when I got to Tyler was very rough.
How did you have a connection there? So obviously the English barrier was real.
Right.
The SAT score. How did you get taught? Because it sounds like with Minnesota, you at least knew an assistant that was there that was Brazilian. But how Tyler, Texas?
So that assistant, when things didn't work out for me to go to Minnesota, he suggested Tyler. And I think he, as if I remember right, he emailed Coach Peterson at Tyler and put me in contact with him. So now I'm talking to this Texan guy, which is like even worse. But thankfully, again, my brothers came to the rescue, you know, and I also have his older sister who speaks English very well.
So you are
fourth. Yeah,
Okay.
so my sister, and then my two brothers, and then me.
And what was the age of not your older brother, but your younger brother in relation to you? What's the gap?
2 years.
2 years. Okay.
Yeah, and then.
So he's 11 years older?
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And
Quite a gap.
And then my sister's 15 years older than me.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a big gap. And they all like, they're all smarter than me book-wise. You know, it's book smart. So they all like, you know, learn English better than I did. And so they were able to help me with that, with the communication with the coaches, in order for me to get, because it's so much paperwork, right, that has to be done.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had to make sure that everything was done right. And wasn't always easy. But again, very fortunate, I had a lot of help all the time.
So at Tyler, obviously a tremendous amount of success. I don't know the extent of the success, but would you mind walking us through what it was like playing there and some of the things you were able to achieve?
Yes. So, you know, my freshman year was like coming in like as an international player. I was very naive about what was happening like all the time.
How many international players were on your team?
My freshman year was and another girl from England. So it was just two of us. And then my sophomore year, we had another girl from England and a Sweden.
Got it.
So my teammates were super nice and sweet, you know, like helping me with the English barrier. And but I came in my freshman year, like I said, like I had no idea where I was going, like half of the time. Getting the bus, getting the van, travel, you know, like, oh, where are we? No idea. Just grab my bag, take care of business, and be done. But my freshman year, I played number 1 doubles, number 3 singles. And I think singles, I lost like 1 match all year. So I was very successful that year. And
was the JUCO setup similar to what a D1 lineup is with 6 singles and 3 3 dubs?
Yes,
Okay, got
correct, yeah. So in that year, I got player to watch during our national event. And I had no idea what was happening. Like, we're at the table at the banquet, and someone called my name. I was like, what?
So player to watch, is that something that's specific to JUCO? Or
I think so. You know, like the coaches kind of like put names, you know, that they think that deserve the award. And then, you know, I guess with my success during that season, that's how I got picked.
So you were there for 2 years.
2 years.
How was the transition from leaving your family, coming to the United States, and making that transition, knowing that there was a language barrier?
Yeah.
Can you maybe speak to just what you had to overcome?
Yeah. So I think my whole family thought that I was gonna be back after a month, because I'm the baby of the family. I was a very like shy kid growing up, you know, and when I made the decision to come, I think it was like a shock for everybody, you know. Oh, is she really gonna do this, you know? And then I kept, you know, going through the whole process, and you know, my parents, okay, she's really serious about this, and she really wants to do that, so let's keep supporting, you know. But not easy at all. You know, my sister came with me that first time to take me to Tyler, and just kind of helped me, you know, like with the transition, and she was there with me for like the first 10 days. And then I was on my own, you know, trying to figure things out and going to classes, and almost like in survive mode, you know. I have to do this, otherwise I'm going to go home. So, and my coach at Tyler, like the first year was like super, super tough. Almost like as a test.
Right.
Like, can you take this? You know, and I had a really good roommate at the time, my freshman year. My first semester of my freshman year, thank goodness for her.
Yeah.
Because, like, I think she was done when I got there, but needed an extra semester.
Got it.
So I roomed with her that first semester I was there, and she just kept, like, reassuring me, like, she was from Holland, so she was also a foreigner, which was perfect. So, because I knew she had just gone through that, you know, and she just kept reassuring me, like, it's going to be okay, you know, like, just get through this year, and you'll see that coach is going to, if you make it, he's, you know, you're going to see through him. And, yeah, made through my freshman year. And my sophomore year was 100 times better. 100 times better. You know, it's like I passed the test, you know. And, but it was, English-wise, it was not, you know, I was still, like, trying to figure things out. But smaller classes, which was super great for, you know. So that helped my transition. And the fact that I had to speak the language, you know, like you have to. Even if you're saying things wrong, people are going to understand you, and then just move on. And then 2, 3 months, 4 months in, you just start, you know, figuring things out and getting the hang of it. But yeah, it was not, looking back, it's like, wow, you know, it's,
yeah.
And a lot of people do that. You know?
Right.
A lot of foreigners have to go through that same thing.
So I had no idea about University of Minnesota, and we'll kind of dive into the next phase or chapter of your collegiate tennis career. But can you maybe tell me more about, obviously working your way to being one of the most sought after Brazilian tennis players? What looks were you getting at in the United States from colleges?
Yeah, I so after Tyler, I got recruited by a few schools with the help with my coach Tyler. Went on a few recruiting trips and came on a recruiting trip to Greeley, Colorado.
Hearing you say that,
I know,
it's funny.
I know. And they took me to Texas Roadhouse.
Oh man!
I know.
It's like they knew they were gonna.
I know.
Put rolls in front of you
yes,
and some
I know.
steaks
I know.
and try to have you talk with that accent.
Yes. So there's another Brazilian good friend of mine now, Luisa, that was on the team, which made my decision a lot easier. Coming to now I had to do all over again. Like picking another school, and
So with Luisa,
yeah,
who I know as Lou,
yes,
are you saying that you guys were friends in Brazil before all of this?
yes,
And she was at Northern Colorado.
right. We were friends, but like we knew of each other. We've played several times against each other because we're from the same state. So
Wow.
we live like an hour away from each other. So we knew of each other. And then Coach Brenda at UNC, she was trying to trying to recruit me from Tyler because she played at Tyler herself, so she had that connection. And then she was asking Luisa if Lou knew me, and obviously she did. So that's kind of like they were trying to get me to come to UNC, and having her there made way easier.
It's amazing how, yes, with tennis, it's all about who you know.
Yeah.
In life, it's all about who you know.
For sure.
Building those relationships.
Yeah.
To connect this interconnected web of why we're sitting here today is Brenda, Coach Vlasic, was a teaching pro at a club that I grew up at.
Yep.
And I knew that she had played at Tyler. I knew that she had played at Arkansas. And she, being the coach at Northern Colorado when I was there, she spent some time as the men's coach as well. And she was making that big push of trying to bring in more international players. And I remember distinctively when she was talking about bringing in you. And I knew Lou pretty well at the time, but I also knew some of the other gals that, the Knopp sisters that I grew up with. And, to me, it's just amazing to know that I did not have much exposure to international tennis, meaning playing tournaments overseas, but to see how your country kind of traveled with you in a sense.
Yeah.
When you came here, and I mean, when you made that shift from Tyler JUCO to Northern Colorado, were there any other schools that you were interested in, or because of that connection with Lou and because of Brenda's background with her affiliation with Tyler, was it just a no-brainer? I'm just curious what led to the decision.
So I went on another recruiting trip to University of Southern Illinois in Carbondale.
Okay.
But I think knowing Lou and wanting, because I had never had a woman as a coach before, and I was kind of like interested. All my coaches growing up were men, and I was kind of like, because I kind of already had that in the back of my mind, wanting to be a coach. So I wanted to kind of like see how that is from a woman getting coached by another woman.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of experience that myself. And
Because you thought you were going to experience it as a coach later on.
right.
So, okay, I gotcha.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
Yep.
So I kind of wanted to see how that worked. And because like I said, I had never experienced that before. So I think both aspects, of her having played for Tyler, we had that connection, and having my friend already there kind of helped.
Yeah, so it was fascinating for me because what led me to that point to where our paths crossed at Northern Colorado is, as I mentioned earlier, I was not recruited. I walked on, and to give you some peace of mind, I struggled heavily with academics. I don't know if you remember the whole athletic window where your ACT and or your SAT plus your GPA created this score, and if you fell within this window on a graph, you would be eligible to play
Right.
NCAA tennis. So part of why I took a year off before I went to college, well, one was I wasn't ready to play college tennis, but also I didn't have the grades to play. And I remember like you're saying, your SAT, it was my ACT, and it was just a grind to check that box, right?
Yes.
And I don't know, for me, it's fascinating because talking about the things that you wanted, where it evolved based off of where you were at and your growth and trajectory. So knowing that you wanted a female coach, with all due respect, I just wanted to play college tennis.
Yeah.
I ended up kind of thriving off of going against folks just like yourself. My MO was taking scholarships rather than getting one. And over a 4-year period at Northern Colorado, I played 4 Americans in 4 years. So most of my matches were against international players.
Right. Did you hate us?
Yes, I had to, you're talking about the language barrier, learning English. I had to learn what names I was being called while I was playing matches. But I share all of that because we have these 2 different paths of, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you had a real tight-knit support going into what you faced.
Yes.
And I was trying to find, I don't know if it was an identity in tennis. I think the best way I can put it, Manu, is that if I didn't have tennis based off of what I was going through in my personal life,
right,
I think I might have been dead. And hearing about your heart and hearing about your fighting spirit and your perseverance and your energy that coaches of an international academy in Brazil that had recognized one of the best tennis players in the world with Guga, it's like, I find it fascinating that somehow, some way, we ended up in the same place.
Yes.
And I would love to, knowing you finally got to that D1 level, walk me through what it was like to be back with a good friend of yours and to be with a coach that was a female for the first time. Yeah,
no, it was definitely, a different experience that I had in Tyler, Now, I'm coming in as a junior, to play for UNC, with already kind of knowing at least one person right? Versus like nobody when I went to Tyler. So it's a little bit, easier dynamics. But, playing for a D1 school, I think I was still like pretty clueless about what that meant at the time, and I always look back and try to like, could I've played for somebody else? Could I've gone to a different school if I had known more about what it meant, you know? But also, I don't think I would have done anything different because the people that I met at UNC, yourself included, have inspired me and have helped me. You know, Coach Vlasic helped me a lot, with my, not just my playing career, but my coaching career as well. She was a big part of it. So I think I learned a lot being at UNC, and I like the fact of it was another small town.
Yeah.
For me, it was always easier, not so overwhelming to be a part of like a huge program in a way. And I prefer playing number 1 than playing number 6 maybe in the lineup. You know what I mean? So more playing time, and
at UNC you were 1 singles, 1 dubs.
Tab was 1 singles. So her and I could never beat that
How
girl.
could I disrespect?
I know. But her and I, we had some great times playing number 1 dubs. And I played 2 singles. Sometimes I would trade with Tiff, 2 and 3.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, it's good times.
So to bring it full circle, and I know that you know this, but Tab and I played mixed doubles together.
Yes.
And we were the number 1 mixed doubles team in the state of Colorado.
Yes.
Coach Vlasic, who, as I mentioned, helped with the men's team for a little bit, coached at the same club that
Yes.
I ended up coaching at, that I grew up at, that you've taught at, which we'll get into here in just a second. But I like what you said about your experience with Northern Colorado, because we're both sitting here knowing a couple years ago that our program got cut.
Yes.
And it becomes even more full circle because, here I am, father of 3, and my son goes to a high school here in Colorado, of which Northern Colorado hired a football coach. At the time, I felt like there was some traction with the men's and women's tennis program. Mm-hmm. And when they, and listen, like, I'm not gonna kid or joke. Like, football is a revenue generating sport for a college.
Yes. Period,
end of story. And when you look at the predominant Division I colleges like a Georgia or a Texas, right, you're able to fund lower revenue generating sports like a tennis through those types of efforts. And as much as I love Northern Colorado, the football program, and God rest his soul, Vincent Jackson, he was one of the best football players that played at UNC, played for the Chargers, and eventually developed CTE and took his own life.
Wow.
When I was there my freshman year, I got to see Vincent Jackson play. And that was like kind of the predominant moment, right?
Right.
So when I think of why our program got cut and knowing that they were really trying to focus on football,
yes,
I guess my resentment kind of took a tick down in a weird way, but having you talk through your UNC experience, and not Chapel Hill, Greeley, but UNC. Yes. Isn't that funny? Like, do people ever ask you, like,
all the time?
Hey, you went to UNC?
All the time.
Do you say Chapel Hill or do you say Greeley?
I want to say Chapel Hill, right? No, I was always proud to be at UNC. UNC Greeley.
Yes, UNC Greeley. No, me too. And I think the important thing for me is it sounds like you had no regrets.
No, no regrets. I will do it all over again. Now hearing you talk about, the football players, talking about academics and having to keep up a GPA and have, in order to be able to play, I had to do summer school in order to keep up my GPA. I had no respect for the football players who are American that had a 1.5 GPA. So
It's a good point, and I'm not going to sit here and say, as I navigated my own struggle with academics,
right.
and you remember the mandatory study halls we had?
Yep.
I always saw a little bit of favoritism in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, it's like money talks.
Yes.
And I'm grateful for having the degree that I chose. I originally was kinesiology.
Yeah.
And I took my first kinesiology test and I got a 13%. Manu, I failed it so bad that if I got an A on everything else the rest of the year, I would still fail the class. Yeah. So they made me drop the class. Okay. And at that point I was through my gen eds and I was in my sophomore year and I had to choose another major, and I came across recreation and leisure studies. Okay. And talking to the football guys, they're saying that was the easiest degree you could get, but it ended up being something that is what I still tap into today. So it was recreation and leisure studies, but it also had a big emphasis on leadership. Uh-huh. And segueing into what I believe is the most important mission that you and I are doing right now is what we're doing as coaches.
Right.
And I know that at Northern Colorado, you had an opportunity to be at that point, had you graduated, or were you just an assistant coach after your playing career was over? Could you walk me through that time you had being able to coach college tennis?
Yeah, so I hadn't graduated yet because I needed, I had to take an extra semester to do my internship because I couldn't really get that done while I was still playing. It was just, there's no time. So I finished my fourth year of eligibility and then took an extra semester to do my internship. And that's when Coach Vlasic gave me the opportunity to help her be the assistant for the girls, which was probably one of the most challenging things I did because now I'm coaching my teammates. To get the respect, now that I was just their teammates 2 months ago, now I'm having to try to figure out a role as a coach. So, it was only for one semester, but I feel like I got my feet wet, on the coaching aspect of things. And coaching at the college level, obviously, it's still in the back of my mind to this day, something that I still want to pursue some point in my life because I love coaching at that level. I was at that level at some point, so I know what it takes to be there. And I think that I can still get there,
Yeah.
But yeah, that definitely helped. And that definitely reassured me that's what I wanted to do.
So you graduate from UNC.
Yes.
Congratulations. That is awesome feat, knowing what you went through to get that degree. And does that then at that point lead you back to Texas?
Right.
So can you tell me about your time coaching in Texas?
Yes. So my first job out of college was in this small town called Georgetown, near Austin. So it's about
not Georgetown, the basketball Georgetown.
No,
this is Georgetown, Texas. Woo!
Yes, Georgetown, Texas.
What do you do in Georgetown, Texas on a Friday night?
Oh my gosh, nothing. And that's why I was only there for 10 months. And I was like very retired, like town. I was coaching at this tennis center. And yeah, looking back, it's, but that's like one thing, like I pride myself is everywhere I coach, I make friends. I'm going to this tournament next week to watch a WTA in Austin, and I'm staying with the friends that I made probably 15, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. And we still keep up the friendship. These are ladies that I used to coach in Georgetown.
It's awesome.
So that's what coaching kind of gets us, like the friendship that you made, the bond that you create with your players. And I really pride myself to that up to this day.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I was able to coach at the Pinery Country Club in Parker, where I grew up. And after you had spent some time in Texas as a coach, you wanted different sights and sounds. I believe you reached out to Coach Vlasic and/or, that network, and she was tied to the head pro at the club that I was coaching at. And ironically enough, as I started my family and made a pivot in my career, how crazy is it that you come about? And I was there for about 4 or 5 years, and what you just talked about with, that WTA event in Austin built on a relationship. Can you maybe speak to some of the relationships you remember with the Pinery Country Club, and maybe how my name crossed those paths, and how we almost maximized those relationships by always reminding people that we had mutual respect. And I think that'd be really cool to connect those dots. Can you speak to that for a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So when I got to the Pinery almost 6 years ago now, coming from coaching in Texas for 8-9 years, I couldn't believe I was back in Colorado, because I always thought that I was never going to be back here. But the opportunity fell on my lap, and I was looking to move. I didn't know where. I just wanted to get out of Texas at that time. And fell right into Pinery Country Club, Parker, Colorado. And I remember I had talked to you about that during that, transition time. And I couldn't believe that you're like right here. And we started connecting again. And you're a huge part of me, like, being successful there, because you had been there before yourself. So you knew Gary, you knew all the people that I was about to coach. So you kept encouraging me that that's the right move, and that I was gonna succeed there. And I was at the Pinery for 5.5 years. Made great friendships there that I still talk. I mean, I'm still in Parker, so I see those ladies all the time. We go to dinners, we go to lunches, we talk a lot. And it was not easy. It was not an easy decision living the Pinery because of that that bond that I created. Like, they threw me a party, and over 50 people came to to wish me good things, and because it's that bond, and because I have so much passion for what I do, and I think that shows in my coaching, and people really know that I care.
Yeah.
And not just as a coach, but as I care about their personal life. I try to, connect with them in all levels. I mean, I don't remember spending one Thanksgiving alone. I was always at one of their family's house.
Wow.
If it was in Texas, if it was in Georgetown, if it was in Dallas, if it was in Parker, like I was always with someone.
I mean, likewise. I mean, baby showers when we were having kids and
everything,
I think this is what I really wanted to ask you is you've accomplished so much as a player. Did you accomplish everything that you wanted to? Yes or no? But secondly, do you like playing or do you like coaching more?
Two hard questions. I think I did accomplish everything I wanted to as a player. At the time, I played at the highest level I could in Brazil and internationally. Then came to the United States on a full ride to play college. So I think that at that time, that's what I was looking for, and I reached those goals. As a coach, I think there's still a lot to come.
Yeah.
Do I still love playing? Absolutely. I need to make more time for that. Like playing with you last year at the Colorado State Open, it's a very humbling experience, to kind of, I think I remember telling you, like, I think my heart rate was at one point, I was like, I'm playing, we're playing, and my heart rate is like 190. I'm like, what is going on? Like, I was so nervous, and I hadn't competed at that level in like 15 years. So for me to be put in that situation again, it was so humbling and so awesome that I need to make time to do that again more often, just as a reminder how much I love the game.
Yeah, and it's amazing because I was scared to death to ask you to play because number one in Brazil, started at 3, played at the highest level at UNC, JUCO All-American. Like, I'm just a guy from Parker, Colorado that picked up a racket at 14, 300 plus pounds, 5'11", and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go for this. And it just, I think for me, what it meant to play with you was that our respective stories, our paths, our relationships that we've built, we felt it was necessary to tap back into that competitive spirit. And listen, like the first match we played, and granted, it was open level mixed dubs. It's like, some pretty good players out there, but almost surreal to me because 15, 16 years ago, I'm on a court with one of your favorite doubles partners, Tabitha, and we were winning a whole lot of matches, and you and I were winning a match in that moment, and then coming up against a couple of young bucks that ironically I used to coach when he was like 8 years old. Yeah. Now he's playing at Tufts University in Massachusetts, and him and his sister. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, right? And it's so amazing to me, the power of the relationship, the power of taking this gift that you had, coming from where you came from, coming from your family, and paying it forward. And not only paying it forward, but actually, and that's why I was asking you the question of if you felt like you accomplished everything you wanted to as a player, because I think you're going to always be more fulfilled as a coach. And wanting to tap back into being a player is going to help you become a better coach.
For sure.
Right? And that's kind of, fast forwarding to today, here we are, into February 2023. And look at all of the players that have crossed paths between us as coaches.
Yes.
And when it comes to what I did as a player, I would agree with you that I accomplished everything that I ever wanted to accomplish. Yeah. Period. End of story. But what's happening as a coach and still being able to coach at the high school level, it is so rewarding, so fulfilling. And I think I wanted to wrap up with a couple questions that I'm very curious to get your answers, and hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot here too much. But knowing you're at coach mode now, if you had to go back and you were introduced to your, 3 or 4-year-old self, what advice would you give yourself knowing what you know now as a coach to help where you started?
That's a tough one. I think I accomplished a lot as a player, but I think I was always a player that struggled mentally, as you probably remember from
A little bit.
the player point of view.
You know what? I'm laughing, but as you recall, when I played college tennis,
I mean,
I was the guy that was like the fill in the blank, breaking
but
rackets.
You honestly, there's so many matches at UNC that I would hear you scream, "Let's go, Manu!" And that gave me that extra, energy, and so I spent a lot of time working on my mental game as a player as well. So it wasn't something that I needed to work more, but maybe if I could do it all over again, I wish I could tell myself it's not worth it, getting so mad or losing matches to myself.
Yeah.
Not the other person on the other side of the court. And then coaching players now, I get it. It's not easy. Sometimes you want to break a racket. Sometimes you want to quit everything and, be done. But I think that I'll do it all over again, maybe with a different mindset, a smarter mindset, and knowing that at the end of the day, it's just tennis. The world's not going to end if I lose this match. My family is still going to be there. My family is still going to support me. If I give 100% effort, that's all that matters, because losing, I can learn a lot more from losing than winning a match.
So flipping it, knowing that you know my story and when I started playing tennis, if you came across a 14-year-old that didn't fit the mold of what tennis inevitably seems to require to have success, if that 14-year-old was out of shape and didn't fit the mold, and they happen to come on your court and say, "Hey, I want to play college tennis," what advice would you have for them?
Let's do it. I'm going to do it with you, And I've come across that several times already in my career as a coach, You tell me you want to play college tennis, I'm going to do it with you. No matter, I would rather have that player than someone number one in the United States, talented, that doesn't want to work hard.
I know that's your heart, and I know that's what fires you up because you have lived it yourself.
Yeah.
You recently have had, Manu, an unbelievable physical change.
Yes.
I have a deep amount of respect for that because part of my path was losing the weight to do what I did. But I'd love for you to share about accomplishing everything you wanted to do as a player, to having success as a coach and building relationships, to getting to this point where you look at yourself and you're like, you know what? I can find a way to be better.
Right.
Speak to where you're at with that and how you've overcome that today.
Yeah, so after I graduated at UNC in 2009, I could not see. I spent, from age 10 to like 22 in the gym. And I always hated it.
Mm.
Put me to play tennis for 10 hours, don't put me in the gym. But as a high level player, I knew that I needed it.
Yeah.
I knew that was part of playing tennis. Being at my highest level, I need to work out, I need to do conditioning, I need to lift weights, I need to. So that was always part of my life growing up, always. So after I graduated, I started coaching, and then that kind of like disappeared out of my life, right? Like working out, and then you're just eating, and then you're busy with coaching, and then you start making bad choices, and then living in America doesn't help, with one fast food, restaurant on every corner. So start making, bad choices after bad choices, and when you look at yourself, you're like, oh my gosh, how am I functioning at this weight? How am I coaching properly? Because I was always like tired
Yeah.
all the time. I would wake up tired. I would wake up with back pain. I was always on the struggle bus. And it wasn't up till recently, a year and a half ago, that I got COVID
Mm.
and was super overweight. And that was always like, oh my gosh, like, and I have asthma on top of that. So there's two risk factors right there, being overweight and asthma. But thankfully nothing happened, made through COVID. But that, when I was in Brazil when I got COVID. And the moment I stepped foot in Brazil and back in the United States, I was like, that's it. I have to find a program that works for me, because I've tried everything that you can think of. Every program, every weight loss plan that it's out there, I've tried. And I saw there's a buddy of mine on Facebook that was posting a bunch of these transformational stories.
Mm.
People losing like 100+ pounds, and I'm like, if that person can do it, so can I.
Mm.
I'm a former freaking athlete. My discipline has to help me to do this. So I contacted him. He explained the program, and I was like, okay. And I remember talking to my best friend, Muriel, about this, and she goes, I don't believe you. And if someone tells me I cannot do it, I'll prove it to you. I'll prove it to you. So she kind of like dared me a little bit, and she's like, oh, here you go again with another weight loss plan. Yeah. I support you, but I'm only going to believe it if you get it done. So I started the program, and then you start seeing results immediately, and then you get excited, and then you just keep losing and losing and losing. First month, lost 15 pounds, and I was like, oh my gosh, like it's really working. So let's keep going, and lost 75 pounds in 8 months.
Wow.
And I'm still, working on it. It's a daily battle. I feel like it's almost harder to maintain than to lose. You probably know yourself because you had your own transformation story too, pretty inspiring. But it's not easy. My relationship with food has always been, hard. Being an athlete, always having to control what I eat, and nutrition wise, it was always a part of my life. But after I start playing, kind of let that go a little bit. But I was very glad to find a program that worked for me and allowed me to lose the weight and maintain. Just health wise, my health improved so much, sleeping better, coaching better. We have these long hours on the court, and I'm tired at the end of the day, but while I'm coaching it's easy. So super glad that I was able to get that done with a lot of discipline, a lot of hard work and determination, just like I was when I was playing.
Unbelievable transformation that you made. I think the fact that you did that on the back end of your career really speaks to who you are as an individual, of how you want to help people moving forward. And as much as I'm grateful for your appreciation for what I did with my transformation, in those moments where, you said you never wanted to see a gym, I didn't want people to give me a hard time anymore. Like my catalyst was straight up just, I wanted to prove everyone wrong. Yeah. Everybody. And I never thought that would segue into insecurities and self-doubt of people that I help as a coach. Tapping into that story, sharing it, finding a common ground, and helping people where they're at. I know that you did that for yourself, but I have a strong inclination that you've done that because you want to help more people. And you knew that doing that would allow you to relate more and to have just another piece of your story be inspirational to somebody else.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, I think, what we both signed up for. So I know that, as we wind down our conversation, I have such tremendous respect for your culture, your family. It's humbling that me being a United States citizen and a Colorado native, that you're sitting in my office today. Just, how we get to this point to me is just baffling. I think it's something greater than ourselves. It's something that we're just going to continue to pay forward to help others. But I would love, as we wrap up today, in your native language, I know that you're going to have some folks back home listening to this. Is there anything that you would like to say in your native language to folks back home and people that might be listening?
Para minha família, muito obrigada por tudo. Vocês são tudo para mim. Just thanking my family for everything that they've done for me. They know they're a big part.
Manu, I am so excited for the people that we're going to continue to impact as coaches, but I'm even more grateful for our friendship and your trust in me to really do life together, right? I think there's a lot more to uncover as we continue to help as many people as we possibly can.
Absolutely. And I thank you for having me. When you invited me, I thought, I was like, why me? And then after I listened to your story and Peyton's story, it's amazing, inspirational. So, and then I was like, why do people need to hear my story? So I'm grateful for you to giving me the opportunity to do that.
Absolutely. And I'm just excited because there's so many people that we've crossed paths with that are going to allow to share their stories as well. And listen, this whole project all started because I wanted to be a coach that no one like myself had growing up. And that coach mentality in tennis ended up being something that has been a whole lot more. And I'm so grateful that you've experienced that too. And I'm just excited for the individuals that we're going to continue to impact. So thank you so much for joining me today. I am just so excited. The BTB project is continuing to move forward, and I am so grateful for what is ahead in 2023 and the lives to be changed and to do this together. We're all in this together. So until next time, keep fighting. Impossible's nothing. And I'm proud of each and every one of you.